Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. I think we're still acknowledging Fridays, so happy Friday.
I think so.
We are super pleased to be here today with a very special broadcast. We have the amazing members of Movers Health, Matt Ferrara, Brandon Gilmore, and a special video guest that's going to drop in. We also have Paul Vibes with a special guest, Alicia Munyan. And they're going to be having a wonderful discussion today about mental health, physical health, spirituality, how we can just all learn to take a breather and try and do our best to stay present, stay balanced, and stay mindful during everything that we have going on. So thank you so much to everybody for tuning in today. We're going to kick this off, and I want to turn this over to Brandon Gilmore, who's going to introduce us to some mindfulness tactics and go into a little bit about what he does. So take it away, Brandon.
Let's do this. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Gilmore. If you don't know me, I am a part of Movers Health. I'm currently a student at St. Joseph's College with a dual major in psychology and sociology, and I plan on getting a minor in mindfulness and contemplative living, which is a minor they just added very recently. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is how to incorporate mindfulness into your everyday lives, especially now in a situation like this where we're all kind of stuck at home in our little quarantine bunkers and you can't really get out much. So before we do that, I want to start with what mindfulness actually isn't, because there's, I think, a lot of misconceptions about what people think it actually is. In order to be a mindful person, you don't have to be a monk. You don't have to climb a mountain to find the answers from Buddha. You don't have to live this incredibly holistic lifestyle. And you don't have to do any of these extreme measures that you may think about. That's not mindfulness at all. What mindfulness really is that it's an individual process that each person goes through. There's no correct way to be a mindful person. There's no specific path that everyone takes to be a mindful person. It's an individual internal process that you go through by yourself with the help of everyone around you. And specifically, it's not religious. So you can be of any faith, any religion, and you can still practice mindfulness. There's no religion or higher being connected to mindfulness. The first thing I wanted to talk about, besides what mindfulness is teaching of emotions. This is a topic that was discussed a lot by Buddha, who was pretty much one of the main founders of mindfulness. Buddhism is kind of the archetype of modern mindfulness. And he has a set of instructions on how to follow and deal with your emotions. I know a lot of people are dealing with very intense emotions right now, whether good or bad, given the circumstances that we're all in. So Buddha kind of breaks it down into 4 simple steps. The first of which being recognition. Whatever that emotion is that you're feeling, I want you to recognize it and just be like, okay, today I'm feeling sad or happy or frustrated or angry or hungry. I don't know. It could be almost anything you want. As long as you can recognize and put that emotion into a recognizable form, you're off to a good start. The second part is accepting that emotion, no matter what it is. All emotions are just part of the human psyche. Everyone feels them, everyone experiences them. There's no wrong way to feel things. It's all individual, just like mindfulness is. So the second part, which is what a lot of people I think struggle with, is the concept of accepting those emotions and recognizing that this is part of your daily life and there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to sit down and think like, okay, today I'm feeling frustrated because I can't, leave my house much, or the store is crowded, or things like that. And those are completely normal and rational things to feel. And part of the Buddha's training in emotions is to accept that fact and not suppress it, because the more you suppress your emotions, the more difficult time you're going to have later on. The third part is embracing that emotion, is really letting it consume you, but in a positive way, which is weird. If you're feeling angry or you're feeling frustrated at a loved one or your circumstances, embrace it and say to yourself, okay, I'm angry. I'm allowed to be angry. What am I going to do about it? Don't let it fester and control your actions. Rather, recognize and accept the fact that you're angry, and then really own it and be like, okay, I'm allowed to be angry. I don't have to suppress my feelings for any particular reason, because that's not going to get you anywhere. Bottling things up is only going to make your problems worse. And the fourth and final part is understanding your emotions and what was a catalyst for making you feel that way. Maybe you got some bad news from work, or maybe you or your significant partner are in a fight. And understanding and analyzing what led that emotion to exist is a key part of starting to repeat the cycle. For example, like I said, if you have a fight with your significant other, you're going to feel angry or sad. And as you can recognize and understand that fact, you're going to be able to continue that cycle of creating good habits with your emotions. So you can recognize the anger, you can accept the fact that you are angry, and that's okay. You can embrace the fact that you're angry and talk about it with other people instead of letting it fester and sit inside of you and just contaminating your mind and your thoughts and your feelings. And then you can understand where it came from. A lot of people think that Buddhism is kind of just the absence of emotion and the removal of feelings and subjectiveness in our lives, and that's not true. Rather, it's just learning how to process those feelings in a healthy and positive manner, regardless of what they are. And a lot of what Buddhists do to help with those anger and those feelings is yoga. So again, there's misconceptions about yoga that people kind of stereotype about the art, the craft of yoga. And just before we go into some stuff about yoga, I wanted to clear those out of the room. Yoga in of itself is not about being the most flexible human being on planet Earth. Your ability to do yoga has nothing to do with whether or not you can touch your toes. I can't touch my toes. I can barely get past my knees. I'm going to be honest. It does nothing to do about bending or doing it on Instagram or doing yoga on Santa Monica Pier and all that stuff and everything that you see on social media. Yoga has nothing to do with that. Yoga is learning to cooperate your mind and your breath with the rest of your body. Most early yoga that's still done in parts of India is known as pranayama yoga, which is exclusively breathing exercises, whether it be long breaths followed by short breaths or deep breaths followed by shallow breaths. So beginner's yoga has nothing to do with bending over and learning masterful poses and learning how to do downward dog, which is an easy one, but anything like that. It's all about connecting your body to your mind and your breath and using your breath to connect the two. So I lost my train of thought. It's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. The main goal of yoga is to develop your prana, which is where the term pranayama comes from. Prana is known as your life energy. And your life energy is located within the 7 chakras of the human body, which is a big part of what I want to talk about today. There are 7 chakras in the human body that are located on major nerve points on the spinal cord. They go all the way up from your tailbone all the way up to your the top of your head. The word chakra itself translates from Sanskrit to wheel, and it has its start in early Hinduism, which led to the foundation of Buddhism. So each chakra kind of has a specific role in the human body, whether it be keeping us emotionally stable, keeping us self-expression, making our self-expression better, making us more aware of our surroundings. But the one I wanted to talk about today is the fundamental one, or the root chakra, or in Sanskrit, the Muladhara. It's located on the base of your spine by your tailbone. So if you can feel that very large bone at the bottom of your spine, that's where your root chakra is. The purpose of the root chakra is to become more connected to nature and adjust to changes easier, which I think is something that we can all use a little help right now because the world is fucked up. It's also very important in grounding, which is a tactic that I'm going to go over a little bit more today. And it's special and it's good for recognizing the security you have in your primal and basic needs. So like food, shelter, water, all the stuff that's very fundamental to human success and livelihood. So if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's that very bottom row, like the very fundamentals of what makes humans thrive. So using the root chakra will just kind of enhance and kind of give us more of a sense of grounding and comfortability with ourselves and our lives, and adjusting to the changes that we have to go through in quarantine. Because I get it, there's a lot going on. So some of the practices that I use when it comes to grounding is a method used a lot by clinical therapists, something that I've been taught called the 5-4-3-2-1 method, which is used a lot when people have suffer from anxiety attacks. If you don't know what it is, it's basically, if you're in a situation like right now, I want you to stop listening to what I'm saying. Now listen to what I'm saying again, and think about 5 things that you can see all around you in your field of vision. There's 5 things that you can see right now. After that, find 4 things that you can feel, 3 things you can hear. It can be a fan going off, a car passing by, it can be your dog barking, it can be whatever you want it to be. It just has to be 3 things that you can hear and register. 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And that can take as long as 5 minutes, that could take 30 seconds, whatever it takes to get you more cemented in the reality that you're in right now. That's the eventual goal of the grounding techniques, just becoming more and more stable and recognizing where you are in the world. And that has a lot to do with mindfulness too. Just the essence of mindfulness is just being aware of what you're doing at all times. Essentially, that's what mindfulness boils down to in just a few words, is just self and present awareness. So whatever it is you're doing, just be aware of that. If you're having breakfast, be committed to focusing on your breakfast. If you're planting and fixing up your garden, be focused exclusively on that. If you're reading a book, focus exclusively on that. A problem that a lot of people have now is the concept of doing 2 or 3 things at once. You know, you can be reading a book, listening to music, watching TV, and also worrying about 3 or 4 other things about the future in which we can't really control right now. So just a simple start to practicing mindfulness would be, next time you sit down and watch TV, just be fully invested in it and don't let outside forces stray you from what you're doing, whether it's reading or listening to a podcast or whatever it is you do to find comfort and solace. That's another thing, is that you want to find whatever it is that makes you comfortable so you can practice mindfulness better. You know, whatever it is, whether it be taking a bath and drinking wine. I get it. I won't judge you. Playing Animal Crossing, whatever. That's what I do. Both of those things. Whatever it is that you do to find comfort and solace, that's what you want to start investing your mindful thinking into. And then from that point, it'll just expand into something bigger and better over time. What else was I going to say? Another big part of the root chakra is nature, which I discussed before. So if you have access to be able to go outside, I recommend it. I have a decent sized backyard, so I do most of my yoga and my meditations outside, just to kind of get that fresh air, that sense. If you can't get outside because you live in a house with no yard or you live in the city, just open a window, try to get fresh air, try to get some semblance of natural light, natural air. You know, try to just bring yourself back to that essence of nature. And surprisingly enough, being barefoot too, I've discovered. Being barefoot, feeling the grass on your toes, the dirt, all that stuff. Anything that'll get you more connected to nature is really going to help you more than anything else. So that's what I would recommend doing, just to kind of ease yourself of the stress of having to live during the COVID quarantine. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the concept of realistic meditation, because for a lot of people, practicing meditation can be frustrating at times, which I get. You're not going to be a master of meditation right away. You're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and become a Zen master. It's not going to happen. What it is just patience and due diligence. Every day you need to just focus a little bit more on what you want to do better, and then every day you'll just get better at it. So some key points that I do when I meditate is focus solely on your breath. So you just close your eyes, just focus very solely on the breath. If we have time, I'll do meditation practice in a little bit. Recognize any outside stimuli. So if you're meditating in your room, which I do sometimes if it's cold, and you hear a car go by, or you hear a bus, or you hear the fire engine, or your parents talking downstairs, or someone, or anything, recognize that and just let it pass which is a thing that a lot of people struggle with, is that you don't have to sit and fester on every thought. You can just recognize that thought and let it pass, much like how Buddha taught all those years ago. And the last thing I want to focus on is that meditation can be done anywhere, anytime, anywhere you want. Honestly, and it doesn't matter the length per se either. A lot of people think that you have to do these 30, 45-minute to an hour practices. You don't need that. You don't need to start with that either. If you don't feel comfortable starting with that, you don't have to. If you want to start with 2 minutes, that's great. You can 30 seconds, that's fine. It just matters is that you start doing it. More than anything else, it's the effort that brings value. So if you wanted to do 30 seconds before you get out of bed in the morning, you can do that. If you wanted to do a minute in your car before you go to work, that's fine. If you wanted to do a minute before you go to bed, that's fine. Or if you want to do it during your lunch break, or if you get a time away from the rest of your family or your kids, the people you live with, if you can just find a minute or 2 minutes for yourself, at most, even 30 seconds, that's better than not doing it. You know what I mean? So the focus is just all about doing a little bit every day, and then incrementally you'll become more and more aware of your surroundings, more comfortable with who you are, and I think just more relaxed in a very, very stressful environment which we live in right now. So I think we're just kind of pressed for time. So I want to thank you guys for listening to me. I hope you guys are all safe out there. Essential workers, you guys are the best. Keep up your work. On that, I want to thank you guys for letting Movers Health do this. And hopefully we'll see more of you guys in the future. So thank you.
Sorry about that. Anyway, thank you so much, Brandon, for joining us for this broadcast. Thank you so much for sharing a lot of your knowledge and experience when it comes to all those aspects of well-being and mental health. We get a lot of great support from you from the chat. I'm going to read just a couple of comments that we had coming in. Paul Scancerelli says, love your vibes, Brandon, with peace sign and happy face and the peace sign that's around it. Thank you, Paul.
Peace signs.
Alicia had said that what you were saying was so true. Yes. I was also a little bit in the chat. I found it was really, really interesting that the word chakra meant wheel per se. That it's sort of like a mechanism to sort of like move us like forward and keep circling.
It just keeps the body moving. That's all it's about. It's just those 7, and they line up perfectly when they're all perfectly aligned, and it just keeps the body functioning. Like each chakra has individual traits attached to it that are more important to human beings. As you go higher up, they become less fundamentally important, kind of more like Maslow's hierarchy of needs again, where the root chakra is the most important fundamentally. But once you have that down, you can start adding the 6 more others on and becoming more spiritually aware and present and more mentally healthy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with Manslow. Manslow is a really, really great. He has some really, really great stuff. I'm going to get to a little bit more of a chat. I know Kenzie Ferreira said she loves this, Brandon. Melissa Marie had definitely responded to what you were saying about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We had also posted up in the chat about the sort of the what 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 means. Would you be able to kind of go into a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So I was taught the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method when I started going to therapy myself in high school, and when I started taking more and more psychology classes, we kind of delved more into it, and it just became a very common practical thing that therapists and hotline workers use when you have someone dealing with a stimulus overload or an anxiety attack or anything like that, where their mind just becomes very overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be anxiety related either. It could be a manic episode. It could be anything where you have lost the ability to focus entirely. So it's just recognizing your surroundings and taking in the fact that you're here, you're not anywhere else, you're not drifting away, you're not dissociating, which is another problem that can be answered with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So if you recognize the 5 things that you can see, and then you work incrementally down until you kind of feel grounded and aware of yourself in that moment,
I see. Well, thank you for that.
You don't need to do all 5. I should have specified that. If you can get down to 3, and feel grounded and comfortable, you don't have to finish it out if you don't feel like it. But it's just recommended you do, just for completion's sake.
I see. Well, thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that. I know Tara Kuniki also said in the chat that this is very helpful because my brain never stops. I can definitely relate to that.
You know, I was talking to my mom about this because I talk to my mom about everything, and I was talking about I was going to be doing this, and she's like, I cannot shut my brain off for 30 seconds. I see those commercials for Calm on TV where it's like stop moving for 30 seconds, and she's like, I start freaking out immediately. So I think it's just a very common thing that people are just so constantly overstimulated that we forget how to shut our brains off.
I see.
So
wonderful. Yeah. I know Melissa Marie had mentioned you had said something about being barefoot, and Melissa Marie had mentioned always barefoot.
Always barefoot.
Always and forever. Awesome.
Yeah.
I know Matt Ferreira. Matt Ferreira had also said, great insight, brother. Thank you, Matt. Paul Scancerelli had said in the chat, tell us more about meditation and this type of how this type of mindfulness has changed your life.
Okay. I was going to go into that more during the roundtable, actually, but if he wants to talk about it now, I can delve into it a little bit and then leave a little more for later, just a little teaser.
Sure.
But I started really committing to Reiki therapy when I was a junior in college. I'm going into my 6th year now, so when I started working at the Health and Wellness Center we had on campus in an internship, and it was there that I learned about the Reiki therapy that we offered and all that stuff. And then one day I just decided, like, you know what, I'm going to try it out. It's free. I work here. I spend enough time in this building anyways. I might as well get something out of it. So when I started going and learning about meditative therapy, it just hooked me instantly. I was so fascinated by it. And from that point on, I decided that when I, get out of undergrad and move on to grad school and move on to a career, that I want to be able to implement like the key assets of mindfulness into my work as a clinical therapist. I wanted to branch the two worlds between, the science of the DSM and psychiatry and all that, and then add also the aspects of mindfulness and present awareness into helping people who may have psychiatric needs. I think combining those two worlds would make people healthier and more aware. And having taken classes about all those subjects, you learn so much about, the human mindset. And I've read papers upon papers about the benefits of mindful therapy and all that. So I want to say I have a decent knowledge about it, but I'm still learning. I got plenty of ways to go before I can get a license to say all this. So
I see. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything with us. I'm sure you'll have a lot more to say for our roundtable discussion that's going to happen a little bit later. So we are going to take a short break in our broadcast before we get everything else rolling up. I believe we have Matt Ferreira, who is going to be coming up next for our broadcast. He is just waiting, standby. But we will be right back in just a moment. Do not go anywhere. We have a lot of really, really great programming coming up next in this broadcast. So stay tuned, and we will keep this rolling. Thank you all for joining us for this health and wellness broadcast. Do not go anywhere.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are so happy to be bringing this broadcast to you today. I know everyone out there is having a hard time here and there, and we're glad to be here for you. I also know it's a really beautiful day outside, so thank you for being with us. Maybe you're outside on your lawn chair, tuning in or taking it easy. We hope you are. We hope you're hashtag nap for VBTing it up, because we are sleepy, but we are still working, and we are happy to be here. Now I bring you Matt Ferrara. He is the co-founder of Movers, and he is going to be demonstrating, and I am really excited about this, some tension release practices. Movers Health is making its little mini debut today, but we're going to have a lot more to work with them in the future. Matt is really big into taking actions towards your passions, and he knows that it is exhausting and stressful, so he's going to show us some techniques that are going to help us keep things moving when the moving gets tough.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really love the way you guys are able to broadcast everything, and it's a great chance for everyone out there to get themselves out there, and whatever messages that you have, please hit up VBT. They're doing a great job at being able to broadcast. Like Melissa said, it's a little mini debut of Movers Health. Movers is a nonprofit where we empower people to take action towards your passion. And sometimes that still gets exhausting. It's definitely more fun, but you hit days where things seem overwhelming, or days where you seem isn't even worth it. And what I've found is a mix of this mental health is also a physical health. And along the philosophy of the mind and body are connected, the things that we perceive through our minds get embedded into our bodies. And something that helped me come out of my more depressive times was relieving the tension that I've built up of those mental thoughts that I created and holes that I created for myself. So today we're going to go over, if you either in that boat or know someone who is, we're going to go over some techniques to help relieve that. Most of our time spent nowadays is in front of the computer, in front of Zoom, working from home, on top of all of the input that we're receiving. And I hope your situation's okay, but if it's not, this can be some way to get back to a baseline. So I'm going to go over just the quick philosophy of just sitting, in the sense of what it does to our bodies and how it affects our minds when we're sitting and getting drawn into these devices that we have in computers. We tend to jut our necks, right? A jut of the neck is creating this tension in the neck. And what's right above the neck is our brain. So if you're getting headaches back here, if you're feeling foggy headed, if you're feeling just unfocused, it could be a physical thing, and a mix between hydration and this tension. So what happens is, specifically at the neck, it's the bridge between our brains and our body. So one of the biggest tensions that I relieved and helped me to get back to a better path was relieving a lot of neck tension. I tend to hold a lot here, and most of us may be experiencing this nowadays. So the tightness in the back of the neck does this to the posture, right? So this posture here is actually adding so much even more stress onto the neck. So with gravity coming in down this way, us getting drawn in this way, us coming and forming these depressive postures here, right? So see what happened there is that if you're physically depressed, right, you're bringing yourself in, you're trying to coddle yourself. And so in order to get out of this position and out of those mind states, we need to be a little bit more expressive. And one of my favorite terms that helped me get out of my depression was the opposite of depression is expression. And you do more expressive movements, right? So when you become more expressive, it's a physical manifestation that when you're feeling good, there's no negative thought that can come in and break your day. Vice versa. If you're feeling bad, you can't, sometimes it's hard to just start thinking positively and, misunderstanding why it's not working for you. So we get physical with it and create those within our bodies. So fun fact, for every inch out of alignment that our neck is out of posture, adds another 12 pounds of stress on our necks, right? So we want to avoid any of those type of movements. So what we're going to do is get into that good posture where our ears over our shoulder, especially when we're sitting at our desks here. And the way to do that is what's happening over time with this tension. We may say, just from me saying the word posture, most of you probably already sat up straight. But how do we stay that way? How do we glue it? How do we train it into that better position? And there's three ways. You want to release the tension in forms of the knots that we hold around ourselves, relax the muscles, right, through stretching, and then retrain them so that they don't come back into their old positions, because the body has a great memory, and that could be both good and bad. So we want to create a good memory. So what we're going to do is first we're going to release. So I'm going to do it from the side here so you can see right along these areas here. Those are mostly our tension areas, and you guys can do this, start doing this yourselves and follow along. You're going to take your fingers here and whatever amount of fingers you need, and you're going to start going along and start adding just some light pressure right along from the base of the skull down into these trapezius muscles. These trapezius muscles are those big ones that sit right on top, right? So if you can get, as you see, right behind the neck here, and then just start sliding down, gliding down. You'll feel some bumps. You'll feel those tight areas. Try to find an area that is really tense and really tight. Sometimes, and most of the time, if you're getting headaches, it's right below the base of the skull here. And you find that, and you're just very slowly go over it. And those are called trigger points. And those trigger points are exactly what they are. They trigger you. So when you hit them, they light you up. And that's just a bundle of tissue that got so tight from all the imbalances that were created. So we're slowly going to go work our way down the neck. We're going to do ourselves to the other side. So this is a follow along. My left side tends to be a little bit tighter than my right side. So I want you to recognize that too. Maybe you have a tighter side. And you're just working your way down from the top of the trap here where I'm at, up along the neck. Again, behind the neck, that's where most of that tension is being felt. And if you find an area, hang around that area that's really triggering and lighting up. So that was a little bit more of a gliding technique. What you can do now is we're going to get ready to pinch, right? So that was a little bit along behind the neck. What you're going to do is we're really going to focus on these trapeziuses here, because what they do is they raise, right? This is where our tension is held, right? So if we can relax them and pinch them out and relax them, you ever see, maybe in some movies where they come by from behind and they pinch them and the guy knocks out. You could actually do that in real life. Maybe not as quickly as they do it in the movies, but there is a physical reaction to that. So what we're going to do is you're going to come in and you're going to create almost like a hook here, and you're going to grip, and you're going to just hold that tension. It's not going to feel comfortable. I'm sorry if you're trying to feel fully relaxed right now, but you're going to feel these tensions, and you're going to work your way down from the top down to where that next attachment point is, down at the shoulder there. And you're going to just pinch through these. It's not going to feel the best, but what happens is they call this therapeutic discomfort. So you go through these motions here, and eventually over time they'll release. And you do the same thing to the other side. And what this is doing, this is just breaking up all the what I call cobwebs, that we keep glued in our muscles. And every single muscle has these trigger points in them. And it's just today we'll be focusing on the neck. And I always prioritize the neck first, mainly because it's so close to the brain. And I don't really get headaches anymore at all, actually. But I could tell when my focus is going. All right, so that was the release part. Next, we're going to relax, right? So you release first, and now we're going to relax. And that's where these stretches come in, right? So I'm going to move myself back so you can see a little bit. What you're going to do is you're going to come over the top here, and you're going to stretch along the side of the neck, right? So you're going to make sure your eyesight is straight, and you're going to bring yourself right to the side. What helps sometimes, too, is with this opposite hand, if you can anchor that underneath your chair, right? So now, in order to get a proper stretch, this side is stuck, and now you're going to pull away from that anchor point, and you may feel sensitive here, and this is going along right behind the side of the neck and coming down into the trap there. Good. And we'll get the other side, right? So again, you're still facing straight, right? You got your anchor, right? So I have this underneath my seat here. I anchor myself, and I'm going to bring this right to the side. And this may be your tightest point. We'll find it. We've got a couple movements here. We're going to bring this right to the side. Say cheese. Right, what we're doing, we got 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. All right, so the next one, we're going to go back to the other side, keep that anchor in, but this time, instead of pulling it down to the side, looking straight, you're now going to look down towards the floor, right, almost towards that opposite armpit. So you're going to still come over the top. You're going to grab behind your head here, keep that anchor in on the other side, and you're going to look down. What this is going to really hit is that trapezius muscle right behind the neck there on the side of the shoulder. And we're looking down, and you're pulling with this top half. Good, let's get the other side. Shake it out in between. Again, you're going to anchor that other side, come up over the top, grab behind your head here, and you're going to look down and start literally pulling your head basically off your neck if you want to get that graphic with it. But This is pulling 2 points away. Any tension is when 2 points come together of any muscle group and cause that ball of tension. So we want to open up those areas. Nice. And go nice and slow. Good. Relax. It's going to open up a lot of blood flow, right? So if you're feeling lightheaded at all, take a little break. But it is a good sign, and it shows that you probably needed this. The last thing that we're going to do for the neck here, stretching wise, is a little bit different. Still, we're going to go back to the other side. You're going to anchor it. This time, you're going to grab it in, and you're going to look up. And what this is doing is it's going to stretch this muscle group here. So this muscle group, they call these the scalenes, right? So this scalene attaches right underneath the ear, and it comes and attaches in the front, right? So if it starts from the back and attaches in the front, you kind of have to get into this funky position where you're looking up, right? And you're going to feel this. You can feel this run in front of the neck here, running all the way up into the ear practically. And just look at the funky positions that we have to put ourselves in to relieve this stress. And you're opening up. Again, go nice and slow. We're going to do the other side, right? So you're going to anchor. Do your opposite side. And normally we'd hold these for anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds at a time. Longer if you can withstand it. And most of the time we'll spend, 2-3 repetitions or sets at each side. And it was a cool experience I had when I was way more consistent with it. You're actually are able to bring yourself to a more grounded state. Your breath starts to slow down because now your body's more efficient at passing blood flow and oxygen, and your heart doesn't need to pump as much because it's not pumping against all the tension that's built in our bodies. And it's able to free flow and smooth. So you can hear I already feel way more relaxed than when I even started the stream. So, all right. So a little bit there, right? So that was a little bit relaxing. Next move is a little bit more behind the shoulder. So we're dropping down from the neck to the shoulder, but most of us, when we're sitting, we get that rounded back, and it's so horrible and hard to cue ourselves to stay back. So I want to be able to stretch a little bit of that. So you're going to cross your arms into an X. I'm going to see if I can drop this down here. Give me 2 seconds. You're going to cross your arms into an X. And you're going to place each hand on top of your opposite knee there, right? So this is going to be on the ground. Now what you can do is you're going to spread your knees away and see if I spread my knee away, it's going to passively stretch my arms out. So I'm opening up my knees here, and you may find some stretching happening across the back there. And this is for you can do this right in your chair. Notice we haven't left yet. This is just a passive way to stretch back there. And relax. All right. So that was just a quick way there. I'm going to keep you moving. Next spot, I want to make sure that we want to open up the front. So just off the tops of the shoulders here. This is also an area where we hold and get very tight, right? So if this is super tight, it pulls our shoulders forward, and we get into that depressive or that tight and anxious feeling. So I don't know if you have either a wall behind you or on you can go up against one. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to put your hand up on a wall. And you're going to do is you're going to turn away from it. I'm going to just angle ourselves here just so you can see a little bit better. So you're going to get your hand on the wall, and you're going to turn away, right? So you want your wrist below your shoulder. So if you see my wrist back there, it's below my shoulder here. And anything you can find, you're going to open this shoulder up. It's going to feel tight. Take your time into it, breathe into the stretch. And all these areas, once they're opened up, you're going to get a lot more blood flow. You're going to feel a lot relaxed. And again, connecting the physical body to the mind. If your body's relaxed, it's going to be a lot easier to calm your mind because you're not holding that tension in your body where it gets all manifested. This may even relieve some old tension and stress of the past. Good. We're going to get the other side, right? So you're going to get your hand up against the wall, and you're going to turn away and look around. So I'm turning away. I have my palm, try to keep that flat up against the wall. You may feel tension running up the forearm into the bicep, coming across into that shoulder, into that chest area. And again, this is opening up. This is where we're going to be more expressive in our postures. And ideally, this would be a daily thing, but use it as a toolbox for if you notice tension is rising or you're already at peak tension. Sometimes it's hard to get into a meditative state when you're just fiery red with something, or something is just hitting you traumatically. So it's good to maybe start with the body sometimes. And I'm actually gonna just close out on one last thing, and that's the third part. So we just did the relaxing part. So again, it's 3 parts. You just what do I have? You released, right? We did our pinching. You relaxed, right? We just opened up and stretched, and now we're gonna retrain because we just did all this. I guarantee you in about an hour from now, we're going to get back to our old positions and it's going to go away, right? So I want to make sure that we hold it. So for the last thing, ideally up against a wall, or if you have a floor, I'm going to pop this up a little bit. Whether you do it now or in the future, it's a good test as well. And what we're going to do here is you're going to get up against the wall. Again, you can imagine I'm on the floor as well. And you're going to keep your elbows back and up against the wall. Now, the goal is to get your wrists touching the wall without doing a compensation. So a compensation is moving in an area of least resistance. And what tends to happen is if we compensate, right? So this is my range of motion here, and I compensate from the lower back, and I'm bending back just to get my wrist up against the wall. Well, then that means I really have some tightness in my shoulders here. It's a hard angle to see right now, but what you want to do is you want to keep your lower back flat up against the wall or your chair, and you're going to squeeze your elbows back. So if you're in a chair, you don't have a wall, you can imagine you're sitting, right? You have your elbows up, and then this is just moving your shoulder back. You want to squeeze back just like that, right? So again, this is the opposite of that motion here where we're closed in, a little bit more depressed. So we're going to squeeze back and you're going to hold that back. And this is a hold because that's what those back muscles are doing in your posture. It's holding a position. Hold about 10 seconds. Ideally, you want to have your wrist up against the wall or the floor. You're going to squeeze those back. And this is waking them all up. So all those sleeping muscles that happen when we don't use them, they fall asleep. And we just want to wake them up here. So we're going to squeeze those back and relax. And again, you go through these, maybe 2-3 more times. And that would be one full session. And a normal run through of this won't take more than 15 minutes. If I wasn't spent explaining it, you all understood it now. You could run through that full run through with all the session reps in about 15 minutes. So 15 minutes to get you from a depressed posture to something more expressive, more confident, and more upright in 15 minutes a day. I find that worth it. You're going to be thinking clearer, and you're going to be able to make some more moves towards your passions when there's less resistance in the body. So you can reach out to me if you have significant resistance in the neck, the shoulders, the hips, knees, anywhere. We'll go back and forth. I'll DM you or DM me, and I'll get back to any questions that you have, unless they're in the chat. I don't see that right now. But yeah, that's the move. Thanks for joining in for the quick tension release methods of the now Movers Health section.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing that with us. So we really appreciate that. We had a good amount of support in the chat as well for a lot of people. I mean, even for anybody who's been watching along and can't really see what's happening backstage. We've all been kind of following along with everything that Matt's been talking about and stretching ourselves out. And I can even just say for myself, like, I feel so much more refreshed and like energized and like awake and alert just from doing some of those like techniques myself. So I mean, even just for me, like, thank you so much for taking us through that. Like, I really appreciated it.
Awesome.
So we had let me go through some of the chat. I know Melissa Marie, my co-host, had said that she definitely feels that the cobwebs were starting to come undone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really good.
Relieve it. We're working hard, so it's good to relieve it while we can. But yeah, we'll get introed in. We got John up next, who's gonna show us the other side of it, which is he's got a pre-recorded video of him building up the strength within the body. So Brendan got to come in from that mental relaxation standpoint. I got to come in from a physical relaxation standpoint, and our other partner in Movers Health, John, is going to build us back up and get the blood flowing a little bit. So we're just in time for the weekend, so it'll be good.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we have that coming up right now. So just kick back and relax and enjoy this presentation from John. He also has some instructions for you to be able to follow along and do some of the activities and exercises that he will be showcasing in the video. So if you would like to place your phone or your computer down, and if you want to just be able to really, really get yourself moving along, feel free to do so. Feel free to follow along, but just kick back and enjoy.
And this is my friend Johnny Big Bear Stallone here.
What's going on?
So it's pretty easy to lose strength while in quarantine, so we're going to be taking you through a strength building workout today. I'm going to be doing the more advanced movements, and Johnny here is going to be doing the easier movements so everyone can follow along. All you're going to need today is something like 2 chairs that you can hold on to, and maybe a backpack with some textbooks in it. So we're going to be going through a full body workout. Science shows that in quarantine or just being stagnant, in a couple days your muscles will start to atrophy, so we're gonna make sure it doesn't happen. It's pretty important to your mental health to make sure that you're moving. So there's a strong connection between the mind and the body here. So let's get it moving. Ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay, so we're gonna be going through something called peripheral heart action training system, which means we're gonna be alternating between upper and lower. So everything we do today in the 10 to 15 rep range, and in between sets we're gonna be working our core. So we're gonna start off with some jumping jacks, just to get the blood flowing. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, next we're gonna go to high knees. Ready? High knees. Next up, push-ups. Johnny here's gonna be doing them from his knees. I'm gonna be doing it regular. All the way down, nice and slow, quality reps. 6 reps. All right, ready? Next up, we have butt kick. All right, our next warm-up is going to be arm swings. Open up the upper chest. Ready? We're going to be doing 10 of these. All right, next up, we're going to be doing leg swings. Grab onto something, swing your leg up and back. You get a little bit higher each time. Feel a nice stretch right at the back of your leg. On each side. Alright, so now our warm-up's done, we're going to be jumping into the strength portion of the workout. Our first movement is going to be the push-up. So, Big Bear over here is going to be doing the easier versions, and I'll be doing the more difficult versions. So your most basic push-up here, Johnny's gonna be doing them from his knees. This is just so everyone, can get on board and build strength, build up to those advanced push-ups. Ready? From his knees, nice and rigid, and up. All right, so Johnny here is gonna be doing 10 to 15 reps, going all the way down, coming up, a nice pause at the bottom, keeping his whole body rigid and tense. All right, the next form of push-up we're gonna be doing is an elevated push-up. It's gonna be with your feet on something like a couch. Ready? Feet up, hands down like a normal push-up, nice and rigid. All the way down, all the way up. All right, now our next more advanced push-up is gonna be a side-to-side push-up where it works more isolation of each individual pec. So a nice wide stance, and you'll go side to side, using only one arm to come up. All right, everyone, pick your push-up variation, and we'll start on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. could rest 30 seconds. But as an active rest, we're gonna be hitting our core. So the first core movement is gonna be a pulse up. You're gonna lay flat, hands down, bring your legs up, push your feet to the ceiling. Up. All right, now that we hit our upper body, we're gonna be going through a squat variation. Johnny here is gonna do a normal squat, and I'll take you through a single leg squat progression. So in your squatting, if you find yourself having a hard time getting low, we're gonna elevate your heels by stepping on a 1-inch surface. So Johnny here is gonna be stepping on just a pair of weights we have lying around. All right, so he's gonna be squatting down, sitting his hips back, driving his knees out, going as low as he can. And back up. Perfect. If these are too easy for you, you can move on to a single leg squat progression as follows. Find something you can sit on. And what we're gonna be doing, standing strong with one leg, sticking your other leg out, hands out, sitting back nice and slow. One leg, and back up on one. And back. And other leg, out, sit back, tap the couch, back up. Tap, back up. All right, so now that you've chosen your squat progression, let's get it started. Ready? I'm gonna be doing, once again, single legs, and Johnny here is gonna be doing feet elevated regular squat. All right, let's get it moving. Good job, Johnny. Good job. All right, we're gonna be working our core again. Johnny here is gonna demonstrate some side crunches. Follow along. So as you can see, Johnny has his hands down, keeping himself stable. And he's rotating and bringing his knees in sideways. Since this is an active rest, we'll do this for as long as you can. It's a great way to keep the blood flowing, keep it moving, build strength, complete all over your body. Okay, so we've worked our chest, we've worked our legs, back up to the upper body, keep the blood flowing around. We're gonna be working our shoulders now with something called a pike push-up. Building these pike push-ups will get you up to those crazy handstand push-ups you may see in the movies. Johnny here is gonna demonstrate the low pike, and I'll be doing a high pike. Feel free to pick your variation and follow along. So for the low pike push-up, Johnny's gonna be on his knees and doing what looks like a normal push-up, but he's gonna be more angled down, head to the floor. And the angle of this is gonna be hitting the shoulders right on that front and side delt. Perfect, so you wanna be keeping your head down. A good trick for this one is to look in the opposite direction. So look that way as you push down. For the more advanced version of this, we're gonna be doing a high pike. I'm gonna have my feet up on the couch and more of a handstand position. All right, so feet up on the couch, head down to the floor, almost like a handstand, and down, push-ups. So once again, the rep range is 10 to 15. Johnny's gonna do the low, I'm gonna do the high pike, and feel free to follow along. All right guys, ready? 3, 2, and 1. All right, great job with those shoulders, everyone. We're gonna be jumping in for our active rest. It's just some mountain climbers. I'm gonna be going down into a push-up position and just bringing my knees up to my elbows. Ready, and... All right, so now for our next movement, moving right back down to the lower body. We're gonna be working the glutes here by doing a hip thrust variation. Johnny here will show you the 2 leg. I'm gonna be showing you the 1 leg. Okay, so for this movement, you're gonna want to put your body on a couch, right where your shoulder blades are. Bring your feet out. You're gonna let your pelvis dip down and then push through your heels and squeeze your glutes at the top. And hold and backward. 1, and up, 2. You're gonna make sure you're driving through your heels the entire time. Push through right here. That's gonna get a lot of glute activation. You should feel a hard squeeze in the glutes. All right, so for the more advanced variation, we're gonna be doing it instead of on 2 legs, 1 leg at a time. So again, just like Johnny was doing before, same thing, 1 leg out, down, press up through your heels. 2. All right, everyone. So feel free to pick your variation once again and follow along with us. Now for the active rest here, just get up and walk around. We're gonna give our core a little break, and then we'll move on to the next exercise. In 3, 2, and 1. All right, so if you're wondering when should you move to the more advanced version, when you can get all your sets for the top end of the rep range on the easier version, you move up to the ones I'm doing. All right, great job on those hip thrusts, everyone. So now we're gonna be moving on to a back movement. So the back is kind of tricky when you're working at home because you gotta get creative with it. Johnny here is gonna be doing a single arm row with, any household object. We have a backpack with some textbooks in it. So to demonstrate, this will be something everyone can do because you can auto-regulate how much weight goes in the bag. Johnny here is going to be kneeling on the couch and rowing the bag up a little bit more flat. And he's going to be pulling the bag from his elbow. So you want to think of your hand as a crane, as a hook. And he's going to be pulling up. You should be feeling a contraction right here. Hold it at the top and let it down nice and slow. Good. Now, if you want more of a weighted stretch, you want to make it a little bit more advanced, stand on the couch. As you can see, you can stand up on the couch to allow more range of motion. But he stands all the way down, rows the bag up. So everyone can follow along here. Once again, 2 sets, 10 to 15 reps each arm. Something everyone could do in their house with any objects lying around, whether it be a water jug, or some textbooks, a backpack like we have here. So if that's too easy for you and you want a more advanced movement, we're gonna be taking 2 chairs here. Little pro tip right here, make sure the chairs are facing towards you so the seats are towards you to counteract that weight. So I'm gonna be holding onto the top here, almost like a pull-up bar, and rowing myself up. Now this is auto-regulated by, you can make it harder by bringing your feet out and making it more of an inverted row. More up. So if you're fortunate enough to have a pull-up bar in your house, those are a great variation. You could do those too. I would highly recommend doing that. But if This will suffice. All right, movers, you're doing great so far. So let's hit our back. Here we go in 3, 2, and 1. All right, great job, everyone. You guys killed it on that one. Now for our active rest, we're gonna be doing another core exercise. For this core exercise, we're gonna be working our top and mid abs and also helping out our back here with some external rotation. Johnny's gonna be doing a crunch, and at the top, he's gonna externally rotate his arms. You should feel a nice contraction in your upper back. Feet planted. Now he's gonna sit up. And at the top there, you should feel a squeeze in your upper back. We're gonna do 10 to 20 reps and just keep squeezing at the top. Feel that, Johnny?
Yeah. Right in the middle.
If you need, have a friend or dig your feet under a couch, have them planted down. I'm gonna sit on Johnny's toes here and up we go. Ready? Good job. Keep it going. Working your core in between is a great way to actively rest, keep the blood flowing, keep that heart rate up, and make sure that we don't atrophy our body too much while in quarantine. All right, you guys have almost made it completely through this. I hope you're feeling strong mentally and physically. It all goes hand in hand. So get a drink of water and we're on to our last explosive exercise. Okay, so we're gonna be doing jump squats here. And it's gonna be anywhere from 10 to 15 on each leg. Johnny's gonna be doing a basic jump squat where he goes all the way down and explodes from the bottom. And as the more advanced variation, I'll be doing it single leg squats. Johnny's gonna squat down and make sure he jumps from the bottom. Up, and 2, explode up, as much force as you could use. Okay, now for the more advanced variation, we're gonna be doing almost like a lunge and then using one leg to drive ourselves up. So we're gonna come down, jump up on one leg. Explode from the bottom. All ready? In 3, 2, and 1. Really explode from the bottom. And last rep. All right, I'd like to thank Big Bear Johnny Sloan for helping me out here. Hope everyone feels great. Hope everyone has a great day. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast. Thanks for spending some time with me here.
Thanks, guys.
Keep moving.
All right. I hope everyone is feeling invigorated. We got some nice tension release. We got to learn a little bit about our chakras. We got a little bit of blood flow moving. And now I'm going to pass things over to the always wonderful Paul Vibes. Paul is a wonderful friend of VBT. He's a local motivational speaker. He runs the People's Podcast, which if you have not checked out is absolutely fantastic. And we are really happy to be partnering with him for the day of our fundraiser at the end of the month, or the 2 days of our fundraiser at the end of the month. So you'll be seeing a lot of Paul here on VBT as well. And I'm going to pass it over to him, and he's going to say a little bit and introduce his next guest.
Good. Oh. Paul, are you there? I think we lost. I think we lost him. Let's go back to the
Let's
thing.
try again.
Oh,
Hold up.
there he.
Of course, perfect timing, right? I told you.
We knew.
I'm sorry, guys.
All fine. All fine. Hold on a second. We let me just bring it back to the main screen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're just going to take a quick pause for just a second. We're having some technical difficulties. Do not go anywhere, though. We will be right back with Paul Vibes and Alicia. So stay tuned, and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
How does this look?
Couldn't be better.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. We apologize for the technical difficulties. Once again, we are back once again with our health and wellness broadcast. Melissa, for anybody who's tuning in right now, could you just cue them in to who we have coming up next and who will be speaking?
I can. So we are going to turn things over to our wonderful friend, Paul Vibes, local motivational speaker, good vibes, send in, awesome human being. We cannot wait to see more of him at the end of the month for our 2-day fundraiser. And he is going to introduce you to a very, very cool guest. So take it away, Paul. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, VPT, for making this happen. You guys are just, you've heard it many times, but I don't think you guys realize how awesome you two are.
Well, we definitely appreciate that a lot, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And you know, this event, we're bringing a lot of wellness and a lot of good vibes, and a lot of good energy, but I think you all need to remember this is to raise money and support people who are really struggling during this time. And, you know, that is affecting people's wellness and spiritual health and mental health and physical health, because as we heard from some of the amazing speakers like Brandon, like John, like Maddie earlier, it's all connected, you know, our physical health, our spiritual health, our mental health. It all comes together like a puzzle. And when you have one part of that puzzle that's out of whack, it can affect your whole life. So I think it's so amazing. I'm so grateful to be a part of this amazing work that you guys are doing. And I have the ability to share what I do. And it's so cool how we're able to showcase people from all different types of arts. You don't need to be someone who's able to play an instrument, which is super awesome. You can be just someone who's making moves and just living their best life. And while talking about people living their best life, I have a friend of mine, Alicia. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's Alicia. I'm so grateful to be here today. It's been so amazing to be seeing all of these amazing people with their own modalities of healing coming together and just, you know, spreading their knowledge to other people, because we all have our own ways that we heal each other and own ways that we resonate with our healing. So my name is Alicia. I teach meditation classes, and I also do psychic readings to get in tune with your inner guidance within you.
It's amazing. I mean, you came last minute to help me out with this event. This event, we didn't have too long to plan, but we wanted to make this wellness event. And it is so amazing how the universe brought us together. And I couldn't ask for a better co-host or whatever person you can call it. So we have this next hour to talk about some amazing subjects. And in a little while, not right yet, but we got Maddie coming back on and Brandon to talk more and have a nice round table discussion. But before we go into different topics, I always like to check in with people. How are you feeling today?
So I'm feeling awesome. I'm feeling great. I feel like right now is a time to like really build yourself and just give yourself back some self-love and self-care. And now is like the perfect opportunity to really like focus and grow yourself.
Absolutely. We have so much time now. We have more time than ever. And I think you could agree before this, people were complaining about how they didn't have enough time to do all the different hobbies and take part in all the different interests and things. And now we have so much time. And I think it's so cool that you and I and the rest of the people in this wellness event can come together. And you and I were speaking of different topics that we want to go over. And there's so much, there's so many important topics that we can go over. I think that we should go over. But some of the main ones that we came up with was just, not being so hard on yourself. We're talking about negative self-talk, and you see a lot of people, unfortunately, today's world with everything going on, there is a lot of negative self-talk and negative feelings going on because there's so much unknown.
That's so true. And I feel like, especially, in this world, in the quarantine world, you're in your house, you're kind of away from other people. So you kind of have to rely on yourself and you rely on your own modalities of healing to make sure that you're putting yourself in a positive mindset and a positive place. And it's so easy to kind of trap yourself in that negative self-talk and kind of, it limits your perspective of what's going on.
And I know that you and I work with a variety of different people. And as Melissa mentioned earlier, I'm a motivational speaker and I have the privilege, and I mean this, I would pay to do it. I enjoy it so much. And obviously I haven't been able to give talks in schools, but as we are pivoting and adjusting and doing these broadcasting during this time, obviously we can't all be in person. I've been actually giving a lot of talks through Zoom, and it's inspiring to see how even with what's going on, students are showing up to class. They're trying to stay motivated. They're trying to stay engaged. And it's amazing how thankful, and just a theme of gratitude, and something that you and I speak a lot about. We can really stay grateful for how technology is enabling us to do this. I mean, how cool is this?
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's so amazing to see like the ways that people are making the most out of their situation. And as we have spoken about before, the yin and the yang, it's about finding the good within the bad and, just making the most out of this situation and really like finding ways of how to be productive in this new world. It's like the time to go within yourself. It's the time to figure out all of these different hobbies that you could go into, different ways that you can take care of yourself. And it's almost like going into a cocoon, like a butterfly. It's allowing yourself to fully grow and contemplate and then emerge.
I don't know what made you say yin and yang. Was it the yin and yang cup or the yin and yang background? Now you can't see it, but you've seen the table I have. It's the yin and yang. And life is really about balance. And I got to say, today's events, what we've heard from Brendan and both John and Maddie, it really showcases and encapsulates this idea of balance and the yin and the yang, and how we need to have balance in life, not just the spiritual health, not just the physical, not just the mental, but you need all the pieces to really live a healthy lifestyle. And especially with all the hard work that Melissa and Rob are doing now, we got to send them as much good vibe, because they are glued to their laptops and their computers and their chairs. So we need to send them so much good vibes. And I think the best way to show your appreciation for what they're doing right now is watching and sharing this video is really cool, but donating, because they're doing all this work for the community and they're doing their best to raise money for a great charity. And you can find more information on the charity on their website. But how cool is it to be a part of something, big like this? What do you feel when you're not just doing a video to promote yourself, but you're able to do it for a good cause?
Yeah, it's so awesome. I think that one of the most important aspects of life is serving others and, giving back to others. I actually had the opportunity to travel around the world and do international service work. And when I was doing this work around the world, that's when I fully felt like I was in tune with myself, because when we're giving back, we humble ourselves and we're helping to build up other people. And we fully realize how fortunate we are to live the lives that we do, and how so many people around the world don't have access to things that we so easily have access to. Like even in this situation, it's easy to, see all of the bad in what we're experiencing. But when you shift your perspective and you're like, wow, at least like I could call Uber Eats and get food delivered to me within like 10 minutes, and there's people around the world who have no access to food, no access to clean water, and they're really suffering in this time,
Absolutely. And you've always been someone that's always supportive and grateful, and you're always trying to, have a positive perspective on life. And that's why I like to keep you around. And it also helps that you live 5 minutes from my house. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good and a bad thing.
Can't get away from these vibes. So I have a question. What are your thoughts on, we're gonna get Maddie and we're gonna get Brandon in this chat soon. Are you excited to have a roundtable discussion with them?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. And one of the points that I wanted to touch upon before we brought them in, I wanted to, like when we were talking about, the negative self-talk, I wanted to talk a little bit about like neuroscience, like how when we are, thinking in negative ways, we're literally training our brain to associate our experiences with negative emotions. So it's just that conscious awareness that we're constantly building the ways that our brain is thinking. And this goes back to that mindfulness aspect that Brandon was talking about. So it's just being more consciously aware of how you're interacting with yourself, what you're doing with yourself. And this is exactly the topic today. We're all bringing in different aspects of how you can heal yourself.
Yes. And it's even physical too. You see how it's like when you work out, your body remembers what it's like to be in shape and to do different workouts. And like anything, when you do a bad habit more and more, that becomes a habit. And, you have to change your brain chemistry by continuing to do healthy things for yourself. And we want to send out as much good vibes. And we're hoping, and I think that this broadcast has so far offered a lot of value. I'm not sure, is Brandon and Maddie ready to come in soon? Well, hopefully they come in soon, because I don't know about you, but I can't wait to dive deeper into the different things that they do, because I don't know about you, but I learned a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's, we're all learning from each other.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. But let's talk more about wellness.
I think Rob is ready to shoot them in right now too.
Awesome. Perfect. I can't see the comments right now, so I can't.
Oh yeah, no, not a problem. Not a problem. I'm just getting everything all ready and set up for everybody so that we're all good with everything. So thank you so much, Paul and Alicia, for kicking us off right there. We apologize for some of the technical difficulties. Things can always be a little dynamic when it comes to doing a broadcast like this. But we will be coming up in just a bit with our roundtable discussion. So all of the speakers that you have currently just seen, we are going to have a roundtable discussion. We're going to be able to bring every aspect of mental health, well-being, and wellness to a whole roundtable discussion. So stay tuned. We are just going to take a short pause just to make sure that we're good with everything, but we will be right back. Do not go anywhere, because we're not going anywhere.
Hopefully Paul didn't go.
go.
All right, thanks for sticking around. We wanted to make sure our green room was looking good for all of y'all because we are bringing back all the guests. We are going to come back right now with Paul Vibes, Alicia, Brandon, Matt, and we're going to have an incredible discussion about community uplift, mental health during this difficult time, and all the different ways that all of these amazing speakers have been able to utilize their tools to help cope. So take it away, friends.
All right, all right. I just want to say thank you so much again to Melissa and Rob. Matt, we were talking earlier, I don't know if you saw us, we were chatting about how physical health, spiritual health, mental health, they all relate to each other, right? And they're all connected. And I want to talk to you, Matt, first about how important your physical health relates, connects with your spiritual health, your physical health and your spiritual health, because you see a lot of us, when we're tense and stressed, we get those feelings of being tense and sick to our stomach. So I wanted you to talk a little bit more about that, Matt.
Yeah, sure. This is something we all experience, and I like that we can now be more aware of it. So it starts with that self-awareness first. But all the entrappings, and how many times have you put yourself into these thought loops or made up scenarios? Let's say your mom gets on the wrong foot on you, and you're just running through scenarios in your head, and you're working yourself up. It turns physical real quick, so it's not a separation between the two. So when we're going through, our lives, I like to start with, all right, how am I feeling? And that feeling, it's a physical thing. And something that stuck with me when I was going through my journey was, there's no amount of negative thought that can penetrate a positive feeling body, and it's just this manifestation that you have within the way you walk and talk, and you're almost invincible at that point. And sometimes also on the opposite end, sometimes, when you're having those down days, someone coming by and trying to treat you better, and just like, oh, that's not it. You can't think your way out of things sometimes. So we need to get that state change, and it starts physically. And there's some good science out there that shows the thoughts that we have that embed into us physically. It's all one connected vessel,
Yeah.
and I like how you bring up all the puzzle pieces.
Yes.
It's all puzzle pieces. Sometimes you need more of one side than the other. And it's important to know.
It's so cool because when I see you, when I first met you, it's like, oh, this guy's a master networker. I didn't even know the physical training aspect and things. But now that I look back and get through, go further in my spirituality, my self-development, I see when you're hosting these movers events, and when you do anything you do, even your video, you always have open body language. Like people, at least myself, I think others agree, people feel open to come to you and talk to you because you're not tight, you're not tense. And, we've networked with many different people. And unfortunately, due to what's going on in their lives, they may hold their body in a certain way. And what is that going to do? It's going to prevent people from maybe going up to them and chatting with them and opening up with them because they're coming across very close.
Yeah. And going back to, I guess what I presented was that expressive type of body language. And, you can practice that, and, then there's a way to make it a habit. And it's, which way do you want to habit yourself? Do you want to habit yourself closed off, or do you want to habit yourself a little bit more open? And it's a scary thing. I'm a shy guy, so for me to transition out of that, to a certain degree, I still have my shy moments. But, you're to have that openness. That's what I wanted to receive. Going back, I guess, to an energetic level, you put out what you want to get.
Yes.
The wall there. So, Alicia, I want you to talk more about that.
Yeah, sure. So actually, we were talking a little bit about how your physical body is actually, when you deal with different traumas, it actually is kind of hidden away in little energetic pockets within you. So there's this concept called somatic energy healing. And we were talking a little bit about this. So when we experience different traumas, they can be pocketed away inside of us and tied to a place mentally. So it could be for example, you were hit somewhere as a child, and it could be anywhere on your body, and on your elbow or something like that. You could have stored energetic trauma in that area. So basically with like this energy healing, you focus on wherever that trauma is. And like, you know, you go into like a deep meditation and identify where that area and that location is. And it's literally, it feels like a physical release. And it's so interesting to see that connection between like the physical and that spiritual self, how what we're experiencing physically is like leaving these different, you know, bits of traumas in different places that need to be released and acknowledged.
Yeah, that's great. I never discovered that spiritual energetic side to myself. I guess because I went like an academic route with the science part of it.
Yeah.
But I slowly dipped into it when I graduated, and discovered my own, you know, just like self-taught stuff. But I never had like a teacher or a mentor or anything like that. So I got bits and pieces of it. So I'm excited. I mean, it really just met Alicia today. So it'd be cool to see where we can go in the future of you know, helping each other uncover, you know, everyone here and do this all live. I think we'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, that would be so awesome.
Yes. Alicia, great meeting you as well. You seem like a very interesting person. I've never met you before in my life. But well, let's check in with Brandon because he said something. You know what? The way, and I gotta say, Brendan, where are you at?
I'm still here. I'm hanging in there. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing? I want to talk to you. I mean, you could talk whatever you want, obviously, but I like to learn about the connection between these different modalities, right? The physical, the spiritual, the mental, right? And I gotta say, you did a great job at this because a lot of the stuff I knew. But the way that you talked about it, you talked about it in such a simple and easy to understand way. And I think, would you agree that sometimes the spiritual stuff, people are like, what are they talking about? Like, where are they coming from?
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea where they... Talk to us more about that.
Yeah. So when I first started putting my script together for this, my ultimate goal was to make mindfulness and meditation and introduction to energy healing, the chakras, as simple and as like, you know, open to the general public as possible. Because when I started, you know, going into Reiki therapy, I didn't have a clue what the hell she was talking about. Like she would just talk and spit out these keywords and I wouldn't have a clue. And I would just shake to my head and be like, But as I went on, I started to figure some things out. So I wanted to make it as approachable for people as they possibly can. Because I know that spirituality and mindfulness is kind of a weird topic for some people to discuss. They don't know too much about it. So I wanted to introduce it in a way that we can work from a ground level. And then when we make more videos and more online classes about the chakras and meditation tactics and doing simple yoga techniques, that we can take that ground knowledge from today and build it up into creating a more diverse spiritual portfolio.
That's dope. Yeah, I've never dove into, you know, understanding the chakras, and you know, I really would like to see a link between, you know, understanding that and then me personally bringing in whatever physical knowledge I have, and then coming in energetically, and I'm stoked. We gotta do more. We gotta do more of this.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. You know, it's a cool topic.
There's a lot of physical connections between specific back pain, neck pain, and the chakras specifically. They more have like mental aspects. Like if you have a neck pain, it's because you're having difficulty communicating or showing self-expression, and it's very much linked to the throat chakra, which I can get into later. The back pains are more physically broken up into 3 different parts. So you have, just to rattle off the chakras specifically, you have the root, you have the sacral, the solar plexus, the throat, the heart, the throat, third eye, and crown, in that order, going all the way up to the top of your head. So if you have lower back pain, it's more in your sacral, and then going up, it's different chakras. So each physical ailment you have can be related to one or multiple. So it's really, again, like an all-encompassing concept for both physical and mental distress.
You know, one of the common themes that I think that we've been talking about is the kind of way to have energy be free flowing, right? So whether it's the mindfulness practices like the breathing techniques and learning about the chakras, or yoga, or, you know, Matt and then John, you guys were talking about the stretches and different poses and all these different things that allow you to be free flowing. And you know what I thought would be kind of cool to talk about is how our lives are affected when we're in a state of free flowing energy, when we're open, when we're loose, when we feel good. Because when you're in a place where you're feeling good, when you're at these different networking events, you're out doing your job or you're doing your daily errands, whatever it is, it puts you in such a peaceful state, right? And I know, Alicia, if you want to talk a little bit about that, because you do a lot of work with your clients with energy. And I think, to simplify, would you agree that it really comes down to the state of your energy and where you're at?
Yeah, I would say so. And I say that, like, you know, you could get different energy blockages depending on what you're experiencing. Like, for example, if you're doing like a lot of public speaking or something, and then something negative happens, you might end up getting like a blockage in your throat chakra where it leads you to like a lot of miscommunications and you're not able to speak. And it's like sort of this connection to your mental self too, because all of these different aspects of yourself are all weaved and connected together. And when you were talking about that free state of flow, it reminded me of this concept that we spoke about before, which my favorite philosopher, Alan Watts, speaks about. So Alan Watts talks about this concept. It's called Wu Wei. And it's basically this Zen Buddhist concept. And it's about going along with the flow of the universe. It's like allowing yourself to like not force anything too much beyond yourself, and allowing yourself to kind of like move along the flow and the current of what's occurring. So he uses the analogy of being on a sailboat throughout life rather than roughly rowing against the waters. So in a sailboat, you're still doing work, you're still doing effort, you're kind of like, you know, fixing the sail, and you're like making sure that it's going along with like the flow of the wind and everything. But when you're rowing, you're like going against the current. So it's about being in that state of like preparing yourself, preparing your sail, and then kind of like letting it flow along with the tides of the water.
And I just want to add, it reminds me that saying, like, you can't control the waves and the current, but you can control how to, you know, the way that you ride them. Learn how to surf. See, everything messed it up. Thank God Alicia is here. You can learn how to swim or something.
That's by Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah.
Yes.
It's true. Before we do anything else, most of the stuff that I learned from Buddhism came from this book. I can't buy Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh yes, I love.
Yeah, I had to take a Buddhism class 2 semesters ago, and they were like, "You can just rent these books," and I was like, "I'm gonna keep that one."
Yeah,
so now I just have it on me.
Valuable.
I recommend it.
Well, Brandon, why don't you
Every Step is like my favorite book by him too.
I got to get into that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. Brandon, why don't you share with us a little bit about how your life has been positive? And you mentioned it earlier a little bit, but how much have you seen a difference in your energy and the way that you go about life as you've gotten into the spiritual practices compared to maybe before when you didn't know anything about this work?
Yeah. You know, I was definitely a very stressed, very anxious and anger-ridden high school boy, which I think most high school boys are. I don't know. It's been a while.
Still am.
Yeah, but over the years, I got more and more into just general psychology, general clinical stuff while I was studying at Adelphi. And when I transferred to St. Joe's, I discovered you go to Adelphi, so you got a little bit of bias there. It's a good program. It was too far from me. When I got to St. Joe's, I was introduced to the work study program they had at the Health and Wellness Center. So I decided, since I'm already going to be, seeking a career in this department, I might as well try to get some hands-on experience, whether it be running events or raising awareness or working with clients or, just doing office work there. But I got to see hands-on what it was like to work at a therapy center. And while I was there, I was introduced to the concept of Reiki therapy, and I knew nothing about it. I just knew I had done a little meditation before that, but I never practiced it on a consistent basis. So when I started going in I think April 2017, it was introduced to me in this way of this is we're just gonna take the ground level, we're gonna start at the ground level and just build up from there. So as we went week after week, we started with the root chakra, and then we just developed more and more into that until we felt comfortable, and then we just stacked them all on top of each other until we had all 7 aligned. And then when we came back the next semester, we came back in the fall, we started and sort of reinforcing some things that might have drifted off during the summer break. And that's the thing about the chakras too, is that if they're not all in line, that's not unnatural. You know what I mean? It's more often than not that your chakras are not aligned, you know? It's like when they're all aligned, that's a great thing, but it's a natural state of existence where you don't have all of them, you know, lined up in this perfect fashion. So you're constantly working on improving what you can work on and reinforcing what you already have. And since I started doing that, I can definitely say that I'm more confident in myself and, you know, more spiritually aware, and is a much calmer and able to handle myself better. My grades have gone up. You know, I feel more relaxed in social settings. I think if I, you know, hadn't started this chakra training and the Reiki therapy, I probably would not have invested myself in movers. And that's honest to God. You know, so I think that doing this has definitely had a massive benefit on my life. But you also have to recognize that it's not going to happen overnight, and it's
Right
going
away.
to be a very gradual process.
And I just want to add, Brandon, when you were talking about that, it reminded me of one of the topics that Lisa and I wanted to talk about is negative self-talk. And I find that when you mention, right, when the chakras are not aligned properly, or, you know, you're not working on your different chakras, whether it's through meditation or yoga, there tends to be a lot of self-doubt, negative self-talk. And Alicia, I think that's something that you and I wanted to talk about, because with today's current world, with the coronavirus and everything going on and people watching this, you know, we have days, and I don't know about you guys, I think you're all pretty vulnerable and open about this. You know, not every day we're going to be super positive and good vibes. Some days we don't feel good. So I don't know if, Alicia, you want to talk more on that negative self-talk and how your journey's been and kind of changing the way that you talk to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very important place of my healing journey. You know, so what inspired me to really get into my own healing modality and figure out a way how to heal myself was that I was experiencing depression at a very young age. So during my teenage years, I dealt with different traumatic events that led me into this very depressive stage in my life. And I was in this space in my mind where I would constantly loop and put myself down, because that was sort of the environment that I was used to being in. That's how my brain was sort of trained in a way. So I think it was important for me to keep working on myself and shifting my perspective, shifting my mindset. So I recognized that, you know, as I was continuing to tell myself negative things over and over again, that it was easier for me to think in that way. And that I was trapping myself in that way as well. So I think it was important to first have that level of awareness of what I was doing to myself, and then start to shift my perspective into that. Oh, I see that we have an audience question.
Yes. You want to read the question?
Yeah. So how do you deal with fear? How do you build trust between those you meet?
That's it. At least that's something that you and I have spoken about many times.
Yes, definitely. I think fear is natural, especially when it comes to first stepping into your own healing and getting to know yourself. There's always that fear of who you are, stepping into that unknown, but it's really just taking that leap. And I feel to build trust between the people that you meet along the way, I think it's important to kind of figure out who that person is slowly before you jump into anything with anyone when you're creating these deep relationships and bonds, because sometimes you can get hurt going too deep in immediately with anyone in any situation, you know. So it's important to, you know, go gradually, but also recognize who you're drawing into your circle. And Matt hasn't spoken in a while, so I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about that too.
Yeah,
I know you're enjoying the conversation.
I'm tuned in too. I'm an audience member as well. How do I deal with fear? I use it as a compass nowadays. And first I had to get to a point where I felt confident in myself to do that. But now it's all right, if I recognize something coming up, I'm one of those people that would embed things and it would grow. And if I don't tackle it early on when I recognize it, I don't want it to get to that point. So now I use it as all right, what do I need to, you know, rip the Band-Aid off of, you know, whether today or at some point, you know, in the near future. And this way it lessens it. You kind of create a relationship with the fearful thing itself. And as cliche as it sounds, you gotta do the thing that you're afraid of.
Exactly.
But I think there are conditioning points for sure. You can approach a fearful thing, after, maybe like charging yourself up, whether with positive affirmations or, physically, I amp myself up, like I'm going to tackle this thing. And, it's hard sometimes when, there's a lot of fear around you, but, that's why you have all of us. You get all the tools in, and you understand to recognize it early, and, where that energy is being put into your life, and how you can take it over. And, I'll open it up for the trust part too, because I think, I'm quick to trust, and lately it's now come to a point where, recognizing that about myself, and being like, all right, I'm full-fledged, like, you're my friend as soon as I meet you. And sometimes that's a bad thing, and you get overwhelmed, but it's also knowing how to, back out, and balance that. If you guys have any input on that, I mean, that's something I struggle with.
Well, yeah, and I got to say, Matt, for you, that's especially hard because you run these networking groups. And like I mentioned, you're always open, your body language is open, your energy is always open, and that's good. But then unfortunately, that leaves you for that 1 in 100 people that is going to take advantage of that. And Alicia and I are very similar in that way. And what we realize, and I think Alicia and I will talk about this more too, but for me, it's about boundaries, and, and that's something I got to admit, that's something I really do struggle with, is letting people in too quickly, or doing things for people, or letting people into your inner group too quickly, and then realizing, wow, I wish that I got to know this person a little bit more. I wish that I talked to them longer and got to know them before I got involved in this business opportunity or this partnership. Sometimes I move too quickly with those things, but I think it's also our society and our generation. We like to move quick. We like to make moves, and we like to make moves everywhere. But you know what? As we know, Matt, in the entrepreneur world, not every move is going to make you money and work out. Sometimes you learn the most from the moves that end up crashing and burning, because then you can calibrate and kind of adjust your energy and how you then handle the next situation that arises.
Yeah. I want to take light to that too. And Brandon, I like how you brought up before, how you thought you wouldn't have, interjected yourself into, a movers meeting if you didn't have that, that round of healing for yourself. But look how it all comes from. Like, we all got to these points. The reason why I created Movers was because I was in that depressive state. Like, this was, it wasn't like a lifelong dream. I never knew I'd be an entrepreneur to some degree, or ever. And it was really more of a mode for me to do the thing that, I felt like I had to do, whether I felt like it or not, type situation. And it was like, I have to get out of this scared person and be something different. And I wanted this place to, and that lifestyle to be that for me. So I didn't know that, Brandon. I didn't know that, I didn't know you beforehand either, but it's cool that you recognize that. So talk about that. Like, how, like, for someone who hasn't delved in, like, as myself, into like that, like, energetic and spiritual side that you guys got to practice, is there like a time frame? I mean, everyone has their own journey, but is there like a basis that, I could teach someone in a day, a week, a month, certain habits that come about? Like, I want to hear both of you guys, come from that end.
No. The answer is no. There's no set track. There's no, when you sign up for a meditation program, like, okay, let me give you a quick example. When I started doing Reiki therapy, I was given this energy manual. This was given to me by my teacher. As you can see, St. Joe's on this, very nice.
Yeah.
And it comes with about 3 or 4 weeks per chakra. But that's just the template. That's just a template. Like, when I go, she's very open to me being like, okay, listen, I know we're supposed to be working on solar plexus this week, but I really need help with my third eye or my root. And she'll just put that whole lesson aside, and we'll be like, okay, let's focus on this for now. That's where it starts. There's no set way of doing things. I think that's the beauty of mindfulness, that it's such an individual process. It's almost like an art form in a way. And to answer the question about fear and trust, because I want to be involved too. Yeah, for fear, I mean, I think fear is a completely normal part of the human psyche. It's a thing that we all exist with. It's an emotion that like it or not, is not going to go away. And as someone who was a musician for most of his life, stage fright is a huge thing for me. And I believe it was, I don't know if you guys know much about the choral world, but Eric Whitacre is a very renowned composer of choral music. You know Eric Whitacre, Rob? I see you. I see you.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Eric is somebody that I used to actually do a lot of choir work and worked as and did a lot of like choral directing. I miss it a lot. I haven't really done it in at least like 4 years or so. But yeah, Eric Whitacre is somebody that we studied very extensively. I actually had the opportunity to meet him when I was going to school up in Hartford, and he's just
I met him.
He's a rock star. He's a rock star.
I think he tweeted something along the lines of like, you never lose stage fright. You just become very comfortable with that feeling.
That's awesome.
It just becomes part of your psyche. When you go out there and you perform, like it just becomes part of it. When I first started doing theater when I was a senior in high school, and I could tell you for a fact that I went to my audition and I was scared shitless. Can I swear? Is that allowed? Okay,
too late
cool.
now. It's now.
It's too late now. Can't go back. But the more I developed that awareness of my stage fright, the more I was like, okay, the more I can take this energy and project it into my performance. And then when it came time for the show, I mean, I got nothing but like praise from friends and people that were in it and people in my high school who I'd never even seen before. So it's just part of that development where you kind of have to throw yourself into it. Yeah. There's no subtle way. There's no dipping your toes into the ocean of fear. You kind of just have to go for it. And if you fail, that's part of it. You know, failure is such a natural part of human life. Not everything you do is going to succeed. I've sent in audition tapes for singing groups all over the tri-state area, and I've gotten back a bunch of hefty no's. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the fact, like, okay, maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just circumstantial. Maybe it's not anything else. It's just part of the process of being a musician or an artist or an entrepreneur or running something as big as Movers is now. And as far as learning to trust other people, I think it falls in the same way as when I give my friends advice on dating or relationships, and that's just constant, open-minded communication. I think that's bigger. I think that communication can solve almost anything, truthfully. And I think that just having that open discussion about things, but obviously like not starting off like right away. Not like the first day you meet someone, talk about, hey, I'm Brandon, do you believe in God? No, don't start too heavy. Just very light, gentle, open discussions that can develop more and more. And then also, I believe in intuition. I believe in people give off specific auras, specific vibes among themselves, and you can just kind of tell whether or not someone's good for you as a friend, as a platonic partner, or as a romantic partner, or what have you, almost immediately. You know, you can kind of just tell, even if like the body language and their words are saying one thing, your intuition and their radiance will say something else, and you can kind of tell with that. And I've told many of my friends, I told you so, when it comes to like ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, or just friends in general that kind of led them down a wrong path for a little bit. And that's part of it too, that you have to learn and accept to make mistakes. And if you do make a mistake and it goes wrong, you have a funny story to tell to your friends. You know, I have countless funny date stories that I can share with people I know.
Love it.
You just have to, you just kind of have to go for it ultimately. There's no, which is scary in of itself, and that adds another layer of fear. But you have to just kind of overcome that and just accept the fact that you might lose or you might not succeed, and be okay with that. And that takes years of practice. That's another good thing. You can't just expect to have it overnight. It's going to be a gradual increase of becoming more and more comfortable with not succeeding. I wouldn't call it failure, but not succeeding at your expectations.
That's awesome, man. Great insight. How do you guys
usually always that scary thing isn't as scary when you actually do it. You always like have this thing that you build up in your mind and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing. And then you get through it and you're like, oh, that's not so bad.
That wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And I want to bring up something real quick, dealing with, the world that we're living in now, of something that could be as traumatic as this. I was in an interview actually for the Future VBT fundraiser with a nurse, and she was explaining from a standpoint where the trauma that some people may be going through now, or the secondary traumas that come out of this, normally there's an end to a trauma, and right now it seems like that there's no end, and so people have a hard time processing trauma when they're in it, and that's something that just resonated with me, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. Of like, wow, like when I was going through that, like I really didn't recognize that I was going through it. But nowadays, like I feel like I'm a little bit more attuned to like, all right, something big's coming. I can feel it. It's happening. I'm in it. And then now, like, all right, I'm in it. Now I'm gonna take control of this thing before I let it take control of me. So I'm curious, like, when this all came about, how did you guys prep yourselves, I guess, for this world?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it happened so suddenly that you didn't really have time to like fully prep yourself and get ready. You kind of had to just like roll with it. It's kind of like when you're in an emergency situation, you just got to jump into it. And I think that's kind of where the panic set in, is that it was all fine at one point and then it all happened at once. And that's when like the panic buying came, and like that's just like everyone projecting like control, like they're trying to take control, so they're just like buying things over and over again. But for me, I feel like I really went within myself, and like using my meditation, my mindfulness practices, I like so much like safeguarded myself in a lot of ways, where I was like, okay, like this is the time that I need to go with it and make sure that I'm going to be okay. I've been through traumas before, and like I know how to work with this.
I want to add something to that, Lisa. And you mentioned, the fear and the trauma and the challenges that came with this epidemic. And that's something that I speak a lot at the schools I speak. And also as, on my show, The People's Podcast, we talk about challenges. And ultimately, I think we all can agree, though, I hope that we all can agree. If not, I'd love to hear that during this time, there's an opportunity to learn a lot. We all are dealing with this challenge together. And obviously, internally and with our families, we might have different situations financially, and all that might be different for each one of us. But whenever there is a challenge, there's an opportunity to learn. There's an opportunity to overcome those challenges. I know for me personally, I don't think I'd be here speaking to you guys. I don't think I'd be a speaker at schools. I don't think I would have my podcast and started a not-for-profit if I didn't go through my challenges. So I think it's about having a new relationship with our lives and the challenges that we've been through, because I think we all would agree that if we didn't go through all the challenges we've gone through, we maybe wouldn't be where we are today. And I have the privilege of working on with young adults to have them look at their challenges in a different way. I mean, I want to talk more about that. What are some tools and mindsets and ways that, modalities that you guys use to overcome challenges? I don't know who wants to start.
I got something to add about the this kind of adjusting to the COVID pandemic. And that is, I think, something that a lot of people, most people struggle with, and that is learning to accept things that are not in your control. So, for me, it was like, I can't control what the virus does. I can only control what I do. And I think a lot of people lost that sense of control, which is what led to the panic buying and the protests and all of that. So for me, it was just being like, okay, I'm here. This is what I can do. I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to do what's good for me. And that's all I can do. And as for, essential workers and nurses, Matt, I know you have a friend who's a nurse. I don't know if she's watching this right now, but just for all the people that are doctors and nurses and working in the medical front lines, is that, what matters is that you're doing the best that you can. There's no perfection that can possibly be reached in any aspect. So, you just have to do the best that you can and bring your best, put your best foot forward every day when it comes to treating patients and helping families go through this. And if you're doing that, no more can be asked of you than just working the best you can, generally.
I think we have some questions, Ben. I'm going to cut you up, but I want to get to the questions as we start to wind down. There's a question here about, is there a time to talk about the food you put in your body and how that affects your gut and your mental health, your mental reaction, or the gut instinct? And I think, Maddie, you have probably the most knowledge in regards to fitness and nutrition.
Oh, so that's my sister. What's up, Kenzie? Yeah. So there's a lot of theories around this. Some move ways in the type of energy level that the food that you're eating, comes into your body. Then you receive that energy level. I've recently adopted something more of those lines, as something that has more vitality to it. If I consume something like that, well, then I'm going to become more vital. So in terms of the type of food, obviously things that are more processed, that's dead, that has no life force to it. So when you take something that's dead and bring it into your body, well, then you have to use more of your life force to digest that dead thing versus taking something in that's already living. Well, if you take something that's, or recently living, things that are fresh and organic. There was a cool book, I forget what it was, but essentially the theory was a 48-hour window of, having that freshness, that vitality, that life force to it. So that's why it's so important to take something fresh like that in, is because you get all those nutrients, all those electrons, that life force, immediately versus, having it, putting into a packaging system, letting it sit in the freezer for, weeks on end, and then adopting it. Yes, of course you can get the macronutrients from it, but that real life energy force, I still need to dive a little bit more into that, but I've recently gone more fresh, in everything that I've been trying to eat. And my energy levels have been able to help me edit videos until 4 a.m., wake up the next day and get up on Zooms and, and, I'm sure VBT
Sounds like
knows
my
that
lifestyle
life.
as
Yeah,
well
right?
right now.
We're all in that life. So it's super, super important to be conscious of that. And I think that was my mode of my scared came from of, it wasn't a neurotic fear of I have to hoard everything as much as it was, all right, I'm afraid, let me wash my hands more. Let me become, let me, consume better foods. Let me get more exercise. So I think if you revert that type of, you recognize the type of fear, then you'll be a little bit more conscious of it. So I see Kim as, what do you eat in Corona times? Definitely more fresh vegetables. What gets overlooked is hydration. I always start with hydration first.
Hydration nation.
A cool fact I want everyone to take home with them is drink at least half your body weight in ounces of water. So an average male, 150 pounds, cut that in half, 75. Drink that in ounces, at least half. And that's just for a basic level of mental and physical functioning. If you're sick, if you're working out, if you're, taking on more stress at work or things like that, then you want to get closer to that 1-to-1 level. And it sounds like a lot, but your body does adjust to the water levels. So most of us maybe have a glass or two, and that's only about 16 ounces. So you can imagine how much you have to make up just to get to that baseline. So I would start with hydration first. It would cure all the fogginess in the morning. It would keep your, stress levels down because now your body's not fighting without hydration. And that's from the physical sense, and it'll help keep the energy flowing. So those are moves. But
I've been making so many smoothies this quarantine, every
Same.
single day. It's
Same.
so fun. I'm like, ooh, what am I going to put in it today?
That's great. Yeah, I loaded up the fridge with all fresh fruits that became frozen, and it's the new thing. I'm gonna make one after this actually.
Yeah. So listen, guys, I think we're gonna be wrapping this up. I know it's almost time, but what I was thinking was, I'm gonna leave everybody with a message. But I was thinking we just go around quickly and just leave our viewers with a quick, brief, a positive message, either a tool or a mindset. My message for the people watching this is, first, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to support VBT and this amazing fundraiser that they're supporting. You can check all that out on their website. I also wanted to say, don't be so hard on yourself. We could talk all about these philosophies and all this great stuff, but I think we need to be easier on ourselves. I think this is unprecedented times. This is something that's so new for our generation, especially. I think we need to be less hard on ourselves and try to find the little victories and little things in life to be thankful for. So that's my little message. And if anybody's interested in following me, they can find me at Paul Vibes on all the different social media pages. How about you, Alicia? You got any messages for the viewers?
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope you guys found this helpful. I thought it was really awesome how we had so many different pockets of healing modalities and, different viewpoints of, different ways that we can heal ourselves. One thing that I would like to leave with the viewers is, just make sure that you find whatever your mantra is. So whatever you're working on, just repeat that to yourself and get yourself, thinking into that cycle of positivity, shifting your perspective away from the negative, and use that to empower yourself. And you guys can find me on Facebook, Alicia Munian, and also my website is intuitivealicia.com. So heading over to you, Brandon. What message do you have?
All right, so I have a couple things I want to say to the viewers. First of all, I'm glad you guys stuck around for 3 hours to listen to us talk about things that matter to us. I really appreciate that. I want to thank VBT for letting Movers Health blossom finally. This idea is finally starting to get off the ground. Yeah. I'm looking forward to see where we go with this. Do things that make you happy. That's essentially what I want people to get out of quarantine, is that, whatever it is that brings you joy, whether it be art or music or video games or anything for that matter, reading a good book, find some time for self-love for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, I'm going to take a bath and drink wine. It's the second time I've brought up drinking wine in the bathtub today. But
we all know what you're doing after this.
Listen. My bathtub's broken. That's a separate story.
We'll make
but just do things that pick up old hobbies that you used to enjoy. If you used to play an instrument, try to bring it back. If you used to love reading like Harry Potter, read the whole series again. It might take you a while. If you love watching old horror movies like me, then watch old horror movies. Just do whatever you want to do that makes you happy. And another thing is learning to love yourself before you can bring that love out to other people. There's a group of artists that I'm a huge fan of, known as Take Six. I don't know if anyone knows who they are out there, but they are.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're an a cappella group from down south. They do mostly gospel, but their message supersedes the concept of religion. And one of their famous songs is "A Quiet Place," not the movie, but the song. And the last lines are, then from this quiet place, I go prepared to face a new day with love for all mankind, which I plan on getting tattooed right across my chest as soon as we're allowed outside. So I want people to take that message, and from that quiet place of meditation and learning to love yourself and mindfulness, spread that outwards into the community, because we sure as hell need it right now.
Definitely. Thank you, Brendan.
Cool.
And you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm gonna say my mantra. I think it was a good transition this year. One that got me, those sayings that hit you and cause a big pivot. One for me was do it whether you feel like it or not.
Ooh, I love that.
As much as I am going after my passions, there's countless every day. What am I kidding? Every day there's hard points, and whether I feel like it or not, I know ultimately this is something that I do want. But sometimes you don't feel like it, like it's nice out. I have, friends that are going out or things like that. And there's so many temptations. And I know that, for the ultimate, vision, there are things that I just have to do. And, I count that to myself anytime I don't want to do something, even though really I want to do it in the long run. But do it whether you feel like it or not. You need to do your meditations. You need to get out physically. You need to. Of course, we don't want to. It requires work. We don't want to do work. But it'll pay off in the end. You'll take yourself. So.
And where can they follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow. I'd rather everyone just follow Movers. It's at Movers_ on Instagram.
With a Z.
Movers with a Z. Yes, we're not the moving company. If you want us to move stuff, we'll take cash for it too. But yeah, follow Movers, stay up to date. You will see all these beautiful faces on there. They're all making moves, and that's exactly what we're trying to show. And thank you, VBT, for broadcasting that, and thank you guys for adding all of your insight. I learned so much in this 2-hour session, and I'm definitely back to more with you guys after. And just big old thanks.
Thank you so much.
Well, I mean, honestly, this has been a really, really outstanding broadcast. Thank you all so much. just for all the work and the support that you've given everybody who's been watching for this broadcast. I'm sure even just myself, I've learned so much just from each of you speaking, and each of your perspectives has been so valuable. And definitely, if even, I don't have to say too much, but I've definitely under the belief that it kind of takes all the different ways and all the different methods to tackle mental wellness, and for one to feel fully and physically whole, whether that's coming from a physical aspect, a spiritual aspect, several different spiritual aspects, or even just that positivity within the self, to be able to think positively and do positively. It all kind of comes together to all symbiotically work together. And I know that I've learned so much in this broadcast, and I'm so grateful for all of you to join us for this broadcast for mental health and well-being. Melissa, do you have anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
Always. No, thank you so much to everyone for being here. This was a perfect jump start to the next week. Here at VBT, we have a whole lot going on before the fundraiser kicks off Saturday. It is 8 days away, and I think this was a really beautiful way to kind of just take that midpoint. And tomorrow Rob and I are going to try and be very gentle and good to ourselves so that we can really hit the ground running on Sunday and moving forward for that broadcast. So this was just a really great way to get in touch with who we are. And obviously I'm speaking personally, but I'm sure this is felt across the board to all of the people that tuned in today. We had a lot of people tune in today, and I'm really glad that we were able to have you all here and just do something that is really meaningful to me, to Rob, and to everybody else. Mental health is so important. Rob and I, we joke all the time, we don't sleep. We're not really taking the best care of ourselves because we've been busy, but we know it's valuable, and we really are grateful to be able to provide this conduit where we could get your wonderful faces and incredible and important messages to our viewers and to the community. So thank you for being here. Thank you for de-stressing my shoulders and my heart and my mind. So love you all. Thank you. And thanks
you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Melissa.